This is the original Sandow Institute, and for a quarter of a century it served as London's premier health club. It was built here at 32A St James's Street and boasted a level of luxury that few gyms could offer at the time. Its success would lead its founder, Eugen Sandow, to start a national chain of super fancy gyms, which capitalised on Britain's growing love of physical culture and sports. They gained high praise from society's highest figures and managed to make resistance training a high-class endeavour. But what followed the chain's meteoric rise was a drastic downfall. So, how did Sandow build the world's fanciest gym empire? And how did it all come crashing down? By the late 19th century, Eugen Sandow was the world's most popular strongman and bodybuilder. For over a decade, he'd performed his iconic strongman act across the globe, and in the process, he'd become something of a physical icon. Something he was quickly able to monetize. As he rose to prominence, he wrote several books, started his own magazine, and even built his own exercise equipment line. Aside from monetary gain, these products were also designed to spread Sandow's image, elevate his status, and most importantly, paint him as a true authority on health and fitness, rather than just a simple strongman. The Sandow Institutes were perfectly in line with this vision. Not only did these high-class gyms create a hugely lucrative opportunity for Sandow, but they also spread his teachings across Great Britain. Sandow opened his first and most impressive gym on St James's Street, London. It first opened in 1897 and was originally named Sandow's School of Physical Culture. It boasted 3 floors and featured this incredibly fancy reception, which boasted giant photos of physical icons at the time. It also had consultation rooms, where Sandow and his institute staff would consult with new members on their goals. Then there were the main exercise halls, which featured cubicles where members could perform their given exercises in privacy. Both genders were catered to, with dedicated exercise areas for both men and women. The gym was also equipped with fancy changing rooms, along with this neat row of bathing facilities, a rare feature for gyms at the time. As a 1907 article put it, the gym had a pervading note of luxury. But Sandow's first gym was luxurious for a reason. He was trying to get the attention of London's upper class. At the time, physical labour and weightlifting were seen as activities to be undertaken by working class individuals, and most gymnasiums were seen as gruelling and rugged places. London's elite preferred things like horse racing, yachting and golf. To counter this, Sandow gave his exercise rooms a uniformed and neat appearance, and his private exercise cubicles were a step away from the existing gym culture. In most gyms, members collectively worked out and made progress together. But at Sandow's Institute, things ran a little different. Instead, members were made to feel like they were on their own bespoke and scientifically planned exercise journey. Following their consultation process, members received a tailored exercise plan and one-on-one coaching. Each member even had their own dedicated locker. Gym members typically exercised with dumbbells and wall pulley systems, although the gym also had more specialist equipment available, such as this Roman pillar device, and even neck training equipment. Those who wanted to document their own physique progress could even have their own photos taken at the gym. But membership did come with quite the price tag. 1 year at Sandow's first gym cost £10 and 10 shillings, which adjusted for inflation today, comes in at £1,600 or $2,050. Luckily, the other gyms in Sandow's chain were a little more down market and affordable, and by the standards of the time, still luxurious and well equipped. These opened shortly after Sandow unveiled his first gym on St James's Street. By the turn of the 20th century, he'd expanded his empire across Great Britain, establishing gyms in cities like Sheffield, Birmingham and Manchester. So, how did Sandow market his fancy gyms? Well, turns out he used a lot of the same tactics that gyms and trainers still use today. We're talking pressure-selling tactics like these, which implored viewers to act on their health. He advertised so-called limited and exclusive offers in newspapers, and offered free consultations. He used his existing clients as case studies, even featuring before and after photos, a fairly innovative advertising method for the time. He even made guarantees about the kind of muscular development that members could expect. He'd appealed to science by positioning his institute at the forefront of health and wellness. He used sciencey imagery like this, and put together all these cool charts and graphs. He was also huge on testimonials and endorsements from public figures. Sandow was connected with many well-known people, and often had them vouch for him. This included Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes. Sandow even paid members of the press to run extensive stories on his gyms, which were packaged as authentic investigations, but read more like elaborate promotional pieces. Then there were the highly exaggerated claims. In 1907, Sandow's gym branding underwent some changes, including a catchy new name, the Sandow Institute. As part of this, a new cascade of adverts like these began to appear. They placed less emphasis on strength and muscular development, and instead focused on health, longevity, and the curing of illness. These illnesses included constipation, indigestion, liver troubles, rheumatism, gout, defects in physical deformity, lung health, kidney disorder, heart effect, obesity, circulatory disorders, insomnia, and neurasthenia. To justify this new marketing angle, Sandow stated that
the true value of physical culture lies in its ability not so much to make the strong man stronger as to make the weak man less weak.
But Sandow also benefited a lot from this new marketing angle himself, as it propelled his name and teachings even more in British society. And more influence is exactly what he wanted.
In Sandow's own life, he's moving away from being just a strongman.
This is Conor Heffernan. He's a lecturer in the sociology of sport and the founder of Physical Culture Study, a website dedicated to the history of physical culture. He's also someone who knows a lot about Sandow.
In Sandow's own life, he's moving away from being just a strongman, and he's moving into more of this identity of physical culture as a respectable driving force in English society. He's pushing to have physical culture put into the physical education curricula in England. He's still trying to get his system put into the British military, and he becomes the professor of physical culture for the British monarch. He's effectively advocating for a Minister of Health long before that sort of idea comes about in British politics. He is distinguishing himself more and more as this respectable, educated, erudite man. And this is where the curative physical culture institutes come into play, because they're part of that branding image.
Sandow's new advertising campaigns, now focused more on health and the curing of illness, proved highly successful in advertising his institutes. But this new rebrand also raised some, really serious ethical issues.
Effectively, Sandow marketed an institute where he said he could cure 99% of all clients using physical culture alone. And what's so interesting about this is that we have maybe quack medicine, and we have these dubious health products from the 1900s all the way to the present day. But Sandow's institute was initially seen as a really respectable organization. It shows the power of physical culture, how popular it was, how respectable it could be in English society during that time, but also the controversy of it, because Sandow is not a doctor. He has doctors working for him, but he's not a doctor, and he's saying he can cure liver trouble, heart trouble, kidney trouble, obesity, etc., using physical culture alone.
With Sandow fully embracing his new role as a supposed authority on health and healing, he took things even further. He began to employ doctors at his institutes, which was something you could apparently do in Edwardian England. They would assess if a new gym member actually needed real medical intervention, or would in fact benefit from exercise at Sandow's Institute. If you're starting to think that this system doesn't sound particularly reliable, you'd be totally right, because as it turns out, Edwardian doctors weren't always that great at diagnosing serious illnesses, and that led to people slipping through the cracks in the Institute's not-so-airtight system. This resulted in cases where some of the Institute's members actually died due to serious existing illnesses, which shockingly couldn't be improved by swinging dumbbells around. And there was also this case in 1908, when a woman was so severely scalded by one of the Institute's baths that she actually died of third-degree burns. The story made national headlines, and probably put members off bathing at the Institute for a while. And then came Sandow's battle with the General Medical Council. In 1910, they launched legal attacks on 3 doctors working at Sandow's London St James's Street Institute due to their association with Sandow and his advertising. These ads had continually made Sandow out to be a thought leader in the medical community. At the time, the council didn't allow British doctors to publicly advertise their services, a rule enacted to help distinguish Britain's actual doctors from the many quack doctors at the time, whose adverts permeated newspapers in every city. The GMC found that Sandow's doctors had breached this code, and a series of court battles ensued. The case highlighted many of Sandow's advertising practices, notably his continuous referencing to the medical community in his adverts. 2 of the doctors were stripped of their medical licenses, and the case created something of a rift between Sandow and the medical community.
From an institutional reputational perspective, Sandow is hurt by this. The general establishment no longer really wants to associate with him. There's a huge drop-off in the number of medical lectures Sandow starts to give. We're not seeing him really aligning with the military, the educational system, the medical system, in the same way that he was, say, from 1907 to 1910.
Despite the questioning of his authority and expertise, Sandow still had his eyes on further expanding his empire of health clubs, with a new goal to expand operations across the globe. But his next problem was that Great Britain was about to enter a pretty tough time. In 1914, the First World War began, and the devastating 4-year-long conflict was a strain on Britain's economic resources. Many businesses struggled to stay afloat, including Sandow's Institute. In fact, Sandow's whole business empire started to struggle, particularly his cocoa company, which was rumoured to be using a German imported ingredient, something that didn't fit with the anti-German sentiment in Britain at the time. On the subject of Germanophobia, Sandow himself was born in Königsberg, Prussia, and had always spoke with a thick German accent. During the war years, he was a target of false rumours that stated he was actually a German spy, and that he had even been shot at the Tower of London. These salacious headlines were fairly shocking to the British public, and particularly to Sandow, who read them while sitting alive and well at home. Despite the rumours being baseless and mostly spread by Mary A. Harper, who operated a nearby competing gym business, they gained significant newspaper coverage across Britain and America. Sandow did try to let the public know that the rumours were baseless, and that he was still alive. But by now, his authority and reach in the media had dwindled. The rumours became a stain on his reputation. In 1916, the Sandow Limited business collapsed, and one by one, Sandow's business ventures ceased. The days of Sandow Cocoa and his nationwide health chain were now gone. But Sandow kept his very first institute on St James's Street open, now financing the club out of his own pocket. Despite incurring further losses, he kept the institute open right up until his death in 1925. Sandow died at just 58 years old due to an aortic aneurysm, the cause for which has been widely speculated on. It was an early end for someone who was once claimed to be Britain's healthiest man. This is how 32 St James's Street looks today. The building which once held Sandow's first institute was replaced in 1929. Where the grand alley to his gym doors used to be, there's now just an entrance to a bunch of offices. Unlike Sandow's former London home in Kensington, which is marked by a blue plaque, there's really nothing left of his first institute, In the grand scheme, it's just another gym that came and left capital. But Sandow's venture into the gym business was something special. His mass print campaigns would influence advertising practices in the health and fitness space for decades. Like limited offers and before and after photos, these are all things we still see used in advertising today. And Sandow's premium gyms were a true prototype for the modern health club. I mean, sure, these gyms and Sandow do have a complicated legacy.
It's this fine line between, oh, look how amazing physical culture is, and oh, here's another fitness entrepreneur who's overstepped the mark.
Ultimately, Sandow pushed boundaries. Even some, which probably shouldn't have been pushed. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then make sure to subscribe, as I'll be uploading more stuff like this in the future. You can also follow me on Instagram, where I post lots of stuff about the history of bodybuilding. I also want to give a huge shout out to Conor Heffernan for jumping on this video and dropping some great knowledge. I'd highly recommend you check out his website, Physical Culture Study, which has lots of great information about the history of bodybuilding and strength sports.